A few days ago, a decent amount of content was released on Path of Titan's public test branch, giving us a short taste of what's inside the upcoming update. New attacks, changes to subspecies, the map, dinosaur stats, balance, the usual bug fixing, and more. However, also during that time, something peculiar happened. At one point, a special 3-hour gameplay session was conducted by the developers themselves to test something in particular. A brand new mechanic that, by the looks of it, is coming alongside the next patch: Pounce and grab attacks. Maybe I'm in a minority here, but this was quite unexpected. These specific kinds of abilities were never tested or even hinted up until now from my knowledge, which makes it even more impressive since from what we could see, these abilities are working surprisingly well. Sure, there are some inconsistencies and bugs here and there, but it's nothing all that significant, so I was pleasantly surprised. But this means more than just a few neat abilities for us to play with. The introduction of these specific attacks means a lot more than you might think, not only for us the players, but also for the game as a whole. And here's why. Previous to this PTB content drop, Path's combat had a very specific structure. Dinosaurs were all tangibly diverse when it comes to playstyles, but the mechanics themselves were not necessarily limited, but more so lacking the interactability aspect between characters. Let me explain. For the most part, the abilities interact with the owner in a much deeper way than with other players. Things like buffs, different movement abilities, and defensive skills are very predominant in the roster's kit. But things like debuffs and movement impairment attacks, for example, are rather rare. We have Bone Break, Venom, and Ramming, but that's it. We can manipulate ourselves in a much more impactful way than we can with others, and while that isn't inherently a negative, it cuts out a lot of potential mechanics that could improve the game's combat and make it more complex and thoughtful. But that's about to change with these two new attacks. Pounce and grabbing may not seem that much different from what we already have, but in actuality, this is a considerably large step forward in multiple ways. You see, these abilities differ from most skills we have currently available because now we have the capability to interact with other players' characters in a much more direct way, with the former allowing us to attach ourselves to a controlled body and the latter letting us take full control on someone else's movement. This is a massive change in two distinct fronts. With these additions, predators have now several new methods to intercept their prey in a more engaging, skillful, and also immersive way. Sarcos can now grab dinos and drag them deep below the waves, and raptors can latch onto players to inflict damage or to prevent them from fleeing away. These interactions are important because they involve the direct input from both members, the hunter and the hunted. The carnivore must know how and when to use it, and the herbivore has now the ability to buck or flail depending on the ability in order to counter it. This dynamic was something that wasn't yet in the game, and its implementation is a big improvement that will pay off later on. It is an extra layer of complexity that it's very welcome and probably needed for Path of Titans, especially because this opens the possibility for numerous other interactions that previously simply weren't possible. The Pounce can be turned into a grapple for larger carnivores like Elo and alike. Dinosaurs like Dinosaur could use a modified version of Sarcos grab and yoink a small carny and throw it. Since the base code is now set, the developers are now capable of implementing variants of these mechanics and add them into other creatures to increase the roster's depth when it comes to skills. And these interactions don't even need to be exclusively for combat. Flyers could latch onto large sauropods and eat insects on its back, forming a symbiotic relationship between both species. The birds get a bit of food, and the sauropod, or large dinosaur for that matter, would get some sort of buff. Another example would be babies riding their parents or being picked up for transportation or protection. And with the foundation already present, even if Alderaan doesn't add these ideas, it is only a matter of time until we see similar things made by modders, opening even more ways for community content to be more diverse by exploring concepts that the actual development team wouldn't. Another aspect to the addition of Grab and Pounce is its implication. This week we saw that not only the developers are willing to include new, fundamentally unique mechanics and systems seemingly out of nowhere, but when they do so, the early results are surprisingly good. We could observe that the devs are capable of delivering even when those aspects of the game were not publicly announced before time. Something similar actually happened in the past with the home cave system. Nobody might care about it, but its implementation is rather decent since the very beginning, and it shows that new components of the game can appear without notice. These new abilities are a good example of what they are able to do. At this moment, we don't really know what else they are going to add or improve, but we do know that they are capable of surprising us, and that's important. Time and time again, Alderaan has been proving that they are capable of creating reliable content for their game, and that should be appreciated. But now back to the upcoming update. As always, keep in mind that this was just a test and everything on screen is subject to change, blah blah blah, you know the drill. But for a first test, I would say it was a considerably successful session. Server performance wasn't affected, the mechanics function as intended for the most part, they are reliable, which is a very crucial component to nail when it comes to abilities like these, they are decently thought out, being very similar to what we can observe in Evrima. Overall, the tests, from what I could see because I didn't participate, went pretty smoothly, which is a great achievement since this is the first time we see Alderaan try these kind of mechanics out. I'm personally excited to experience these changes going live, and it is very pleasant to see a game in the genre thrive the way Path has been. But what do you guys think? Are you also excited for these new attacks, or are you more interested on the possibilities that these new systems bring? Let me know in the comments below. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting the channel and the content I create. If you want to join the ranks, you can do so for only $1 a month, the link will be in the description. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions down below, join our Discord server for memes and Paleo nut stuff, and I hope to see you all next week.